Hello friends, I'm Rosa, welcome to the channel. So we are doing a tag video today. So Steph Bora, I think I've just realized that I've never actually heard her last name pronounced. So I'm like, I don't really know if I got it right. I'm so sorry if I didn't. But she did a video called Book Recommendation Tag. So I will make sure to link to her video down below in the description box. But she essentially made out 15 questions or 15 prompts so we can talk about some books today. And I'm very excited to just talk a little bit about opinions. We're not going through synopses today because it would end up taking way too long. I will make sure to link to the books in the description box down below though, so you can go check them out if you want to. But let's get started talking about these books. So question one was, a book you tell is your favorite. So I will always mention a couple of different ones, but Pride and Prejudice is always among the top 3 books that I've ever read. I'm not necessarily a classics girl, but I just love this book. I am also not one of those readers who I like reading the book before I watch the movie, and I actually watched the movie a couple of times before I read this book. It just hits differently. Again, not a classics person whatsoever, but this book hit like so hard. I loved it so much. I actually think I'm due for a reread now that I think about it. It's so lovely. It's the OG enemies to lovers. It's just, compared to a lot of romance these days, very clean for obvious reasons. So just so you know. But yeah, I'm definitely an enemies to lovers kind of gal, and I'm very happy that I love the OG. So question 2 was, a book that is a guilty pleasure. So I generally don't really feel guilty about enjoying books that other people don't necessarily love. I don't really feel embarrassed about what I like. I don't know, so I don't really have like a guilty pleasure per se. I would want to mention The Bonds That Tie by J. Bree, even though I think that series is actually very well received, but it's reverse harem, so for me it was the first reverse harem that I read, and it felt a little bit like crossing a new line, if you get what I mean. So in that way I want to call it a guilty pleasure. But in the same sort of, you know, sphere or whatever, I also want to mention Neon Gods by Katie Robert. So this is definitely super smutty, but I enjoyed it. I wouldn't say that it's even a good Hades and Persephone retelling, but, and the smut is very in your face. It's basically the entire plot of it. I'm pretty sure this is like, if not erotica, then definitely toys with the line to erotica. And so, I don't know, it was the best one I could come up with. Again, in general, I don't really feel embarrassed about liking books. You like what you like, you know? So, guilty pleasure is not really a term that I use very often, but if I have to choose one, maybe. Question 3 is, a book everyone loved but you didn't. I got this because it was so hyped on, I think, TikTok, and I read it and I was just like, why? So The Shadows Between Us by Trisha Levenseller. I will say I have read Daughter of the Pirate King, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, and actually really enjoyed it, but this one did not do it for me. I was so confused after reading it and seeing it hyped up everywhere because it was all over social media at the time that I read this. It was so confusing. I felt like something was wrong with me, and I don't know. I just felt like it was a little bit ridiculous. I can't remember when I read it either, if it was right after I'd read Ekotar or something, I can't remember. But it was definitely, felt like a very big step down, and some decisions were made in this book that were just very questionable. Some plot points just suddenly did not even matter at all, and I don't know. I didn't enjoy it. I was actually very frustrated when reading it. Luckily it's a very quick read, so yeah. Question 4 is, a book you read the fastest. I got 2, cause I do 24-hour readathons, so there's a lot of books that I've read in like a couple of hours. So of course I wanted to include one of those, and Every Summer After by Carly Fortune was one that I felt like I had a hard time just putting it down because I was really connected with the characters in this. So I basically just breezed through it. I was also quite nervous because there's this thing like looming over your head, like over the plot the entire time. You know something has happened in their lives, but you don't know what until the end, and it's just kind of making you want to like read faster so you know. So yeah, Every Summer After was definitely a very fast read. I also think it's like 300 pages or something, so a very quick one, but in a different sort of situation, a little bit of a bigger book as well, because this is 800 pages. I read House of Earth and Blood in one day. So I wanted to mention this because I don't usually read 800-page books in one day, but I could not put this down. I read this I was hooked. Like, I don't know. I was so hooked. So yeah, House of Earth and Blood. It was over so quickly. I don't know. I need to reread. Number 5 is a book that deserves more hype. I honestly think The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri deserves way more hype than it is getting. Don't know why it's not. Like, I literally do not know. This is beautiful. It's terrible. As in, like, stuff that happens in it is terrible. Not the writing. The content is horrible. But like in a good way. You'll enjoy it. Just be aware of like, some of it is very, very much, I don't want to call it graphic, but like think people burning, like that sort of thing. Is that graphic? I don't know. What is the line to graphic? But this is feminist. It is badass females that are taking down the patriarchy, that are not listening to this very bad person of a king. I'm very much trying to not swear, so that did not really do, he's a terrible person. Terrible human being. We don't support him whatsoever. There are aspects of religion in this. There are magical powers kind of in a way tied in with the religion. There's another religion. Lovable characters as well, even though also kind of like you don't really know where you have them. It's really good. Just a little bit of slow burn, slow paced. Take your time with it. But I think if you're into those sort of books, you'll enjoy this. Oh, and sapphic romance, just want to say. But also very much adult. So I actually had to Google my way to this one because question 6 is a book that is becoming or has become a movie/TV show. So I don't really keep tabs on what is becoming TV shows or movies because they're usually rom-coms, and I don't, at least like right now there's a trend of romance books being turned into rom-com movies, and I like reading rom-coms, I enjoy them so much, but I don't really like watching them, so I don't really keep tabs on which books are being turned into movies, so I had to Google a little bit. Book Lovers is apparently becoming one, which I'm very excited for because I actually really love this book. I have also talked about it a couple of times on the channel, but if you are a romance reader and you've gone through a fair share of romance books, you will love this one for a whole different reason. If you're just jumping into reading romance books, you'll still love this, but you can recognize so many fun cliches in this one that don't actually come off cliche when you're reading it, just want to say. So it's just very fun, charming, has a little bit of a twist on a trope as well, if you will, and I just really enjoyed it. So maybe I'll give the movie a shot, we'll see. But I don't know, we'll see. Then we have a book that you have reread the most. I generally don't really reread a lot of my books, to be honest. I can see myself rereading a lot of them, but I never actually get to it because I want to experience new stuff all the time. I'm very curious. But I have reread Throne of Glass, and I would reread it again, especially now that I have the hardcovers. I want to tab them so much. So yes, I am actually due for a reread of Sarah J Maas's universe. I almost say university. I would go to that though, like I would attend, but no, her universe. I'm very much due, so I would probably do that in like June or July, I think. But we'll see. I need time for it as well because I get sucked in and I can't function. I forget that there's a world existing outside of my books. It's actually a problem, but yeah. Prompt number 8 is a book from a genre you don't typically read. So Ace of Spades by Farida Abike. I never heard her name pronounced. I'm sorry. It's like that with all kinds of names. I just can't. All different names. I just can't. But this is a very lovely book. Just want to say. It is young adult mystery, contemporary mystery, dark academia vibes, very much anti-racist, what is it called? Systemical racism as well. Like that's basically what this book focuses on. And I don't typically read a lot of YA mystery or mystery overall. Like I think I own like A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, Truly Devious, In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, and then this. That's about it. So don't really read it, but I really enjoyed this one. Gave it like a 4.5 out of 5 or something. Also debut, definitely worth a read, worth a try as well. So yep, wanted to include it in this video. Is it called, did I say systemical or systemic? Systemic racism? I can't words, it's fine. Prompt number 9 is a book that deserves all the hype it gets. I could include so many books under this prompt. But since I didn't mention this under my favorite book, I had to include it somehow. So Echo Math by Sarah J Maas. This is like, again, one of my top 3. I just adore this book so much. I feel like it's like perfectly slowly built up with the romance, but there's a plot on the side as well. Sarah J Maas writes in a way that I just really resonate with as well. And I love the world. I love the side characters that are included in this one or introduced in this one as well. Definitely found family vibes, but also enemies to lovers. A bit of like a hidden plot point throughout the whole book as well, where you're like, is it actually? Like, is it? But you're also like, like it doesn't really hit. And I just have a lot of greasy fingers on my book for some reason. That sucks. But we pretend we do not see. But yeah, definitely due for a reread. I want to feel the butterflies in my stomach again, and I want to get to chapter 55 and just go, oh my gosh, you know, we gotta do it soon. Oh, I should do that for a vlog or something. We're gonna do it. June, might do it in June, but I feel like I have to reread Throne of Glass first, because that's kind of like how it goes, right? And Throne of Glass is 8 books, which is a lot. We'll see. Plus I can't. Kingdom of Ash will kill me, man. I don't know. Prompt number 10 is a book you usually recommend when asked to give a recommendation. So I've included 3 different ones because it depends a little bit on the person that I'm recommending a book to. But I have The Song of Achilles, I have Addie LaRue, or The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and I also have The Love Hypothesis. So I feel like these are good for people that are like getting into reading. Maybe not so much this one because it does have, there's something a little bit different about it, but I feel like if you are getting into reading, you know a little bit about Greek mythology, like who doesn't? The Song of Achilles is beautifully written, a little bit hard to remember the names at times, but also a lot of them don't really pop up, so the most important people are Achilles and Patroclus anyway, so you know. But like you'll recognize the gods' names, and if you know anything about the legend as it is, like you'll be fine. The Love Hypothesis is super easy to read. It is super entertaining. I feel like it's a good first rom-com to get into. You don't have too many characters. It's just fun. It's a nice vibe. There is one comment at some point between the two lead characters where I was, okay, that's a little bit like, we're not, but something had the, yeah. There was one point where I'm a little bit like, okay, but like a little bit cringy. But as for the rest, I really enjoyed it. And Addie LaRue, these are all 5 stars. I think I just realized. I gave all of these 5 stars. I didn't do that on purpose. But Addie LaRue is beautiful, thought-provoking, definitely heart-wrenching as well, and you don't really know how it ends either, I feel. And I was sad at times, I was happy at times, I was shocked at times. So I wouldn't even say that generally V.E. Schwab's writing is difficult to get along with, but it does feel a little bit different in this one, I've heard, so maybe just take that into consideration. But if you're used to reading fantasy, or maybe you're used to reading literary fiction and you want to get into something with like a touch of fantasy, I would say that this is good. Bit of a romance plot in it, but it is, well, I mean, okay, it's a big part of the plot, isn't it? It's just that I feel the most important thing about the book isn't necessarily the romance plot, but that's just how I see it. So anyway, but those are the 3 books that I would recommend. The color scheme is not on purpose, it just kind of happened. Prompt 11 is a book that has your favorite characters. I love the Crows so much, and I have talked about them so many times on the channel, but when I was looking around at my books, there are several ones that I could include, like Aelin, I love Aelin. Bryce, I love Bryce. Who else do we have? There's a lot of them. Oh, Xingyin. I love Xingyin as well. Gideon as well, from Gideon the Ninth. Love her. There's a lot of characters, but this is like all of them. I mean, except from the bad ones. But like our 6 Crows, I love them so much. All of them. I love their banter. I love the found family vibes. I want to be friends with them, but at the same time, I feel like I'm not cool enough. And I think it's definitely helped that we've kind of like, they've been casted so well for the TV series that I think it's kind of like solidified it for me in that way. Because it's made me love them even more. I love them when I've read the book, but they've just been perfectly casted for the TV series. So it's definitely helped. Just want to say. But yeah, they're my babies. They'll continue to be my babies, and I'm due for a reread of this as well. Oh, this is terrible. I don't have time for rereads. I am moving. I literally do not have time. Prompt number 12 is a book you wish you could live in. This was really hard as a fantasy reader because like a lot of my books, I was looking through them like just kind of like trying to point out what's happening in the world as I was looking at the books. I would expect it to be easier for a romance reader because you're technically just in the same world, but like then it's more like character based. With fantasy, it's often like messed up politics. For example, the Jasmine Throne, like women do not have a role in anything. Or the world is in some way or another very threatened by something. Look at Priory, look at Lunar Chronicles, Aurora Rising, Illuminate, like you know, the world is in danger. I don't want to live near that. So I kind of had to think a little bit outside the box. Caraval is a fun world with a lot of like magical stuff happening and a game that you can attend or compete in. I don't know how you know what I mean. I will say though, a little bit dangerous as well, so keep that in mind, like be careful a little bit. But if you want to win, it sounds like a fun thing to be a part of if I wouldn't get hurt. Like if they promised me I wouldn't get hurt, this would be a fun thing to be a part of. Still this like the world is in danger thing, a little bit. But as for the rest, I'm kind of feeling it. And then I also, this one is mainly because I had like a very vivid image of what the world was like when I read the book. Daughter of the Moon Goddess, the Celestial Kingdom. I would definitely end up as a servant of some kind or another, but like I would not be a warrior. I feel like I should be because I'm quite tall and like, you know, like I have a pair of shoulders. Like I would make a good warrior, but I'm pretty sure I'd end up as a servant. But the world is just beautiful and I want to see it. I want to experience it for at least a week. But then I'd like to put my servant duties aside and go home again. But I'd like to see this world. So just to solidify it for you, this is the map. Like look at this, it's shaped like a moon. I love it. So Celestial Kingdom, most definitely. But also I think only like immortal people are allowed into the Celestial Kingdom, so I wouldn't stand a chance anyway. Prompt number 13 is a book you thought you would hate but ended up loving. So these are both based off of the fact that I read other books by the authors before I read these ones. Speaking of The Shadows Between Us, I read Daughter of the Pirate King, which I really enjoyed. I thought it was so funny. Our lead character is a badass stabby lead girl, which I love. So I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was funny. I thought it was fast-paced, like really good, quick YA fantasy. Another one is because I read Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune, which I did not enjoy. But then I got this, which is House in the Cerulean Sea. And this was like, I can't remember if I gave it 5 stars or close to it, but found family and charming kids. And humor as well, that was well placed, where I feel like it wasn't really an Under the Whispering Door. I feel like there weren't things that happened in this one that felt forced compared to Under the Whispering Door. So this was a very positive surprise for me, and I enjoyed it a whole lot, so... But I wouldn't say that I necessarily thought I would hate it. I generally don't really go into books or pick up books to read that I think I'll hate because I think it's a waste of time. So, because I don't see the point in reading something that you're assuming that you're gonna hate. Like, why not spend those hours reading a book that you think you're gonna like? So in general, I don't, you know, but I wanted to give those authors a second chance, and so they proved that they could also write something for me as well. Then we have the second last prompt, which is a book that made you cry. So I got 2, and they're not the usual ones. So I would usually mention The Song of Achilles or Clockwork, Prince or Princess or Angel. One of them. I can't remember which one. But the middle one. That one got me good. I've also kind of teared up to Empire the Vampire. But I wanted to mention one that I felt I hadn't really talked about for a while, and that maybe was a little bit surprising, but Heartless by Marissa Mayer, which is a retelling of the, what's her name? Queen of Hearts from The Adventures of Alice in Wonderland. I think that's what it's called. I own the book and I can't remember the title. I own 2 editions of it. Oh, what the heck. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland? Yeah, that's what it's called, right? It was that way around. It's fine. So it's kind of a story of how the Queen of Hearts became the Queen of Hearts. So you can, you know, make your assumptions and stuff why it's sad. But yeah, this got me a little bit. It was one of the first like sadder books that I read when I got back into reading a couple of years ago, and so it just got me good. I really miss those books that I can read that make me tear up. Like, I really want to be torn apart, apparently. But there's another one I wanted to mention as well, which I am not much of a YA romance reader anymore, except if there is fantasy involved, because I like the fantasy stuff. But I did read 1,000 Boy Kisses by Tilly Cole a while back, and I was like, I read it for a 24-hour readathon. I don't have a physical copy of it, but I read it for a 24-hour readathon, and I literally had to suppress crying the whole time because I didn't want to mess up my makeup. Because I was recording. And it basically resulted in me sort of having slightly lost my voice for a little bit because I was constant. You know when you're trying to not cry, you're like holding your throat like all the time. It's hard to explain, but I'm pretty sure you can really, if not, then I don't know what I'm doing, but anyway. But yeah, I did that the whole time. I was just like forcing myself to not tear up. And it was a hard time, okay? It was a hard time. If you know any like heartbreaking books, not A Little Life, I don't want to read it. By any other books, let me know. Tear me apart. I would like to see it happening. You know, I would like to see it happen. So, and then the last one is a book you wish you could read for the first time. I have two. I've actually just, as I'm recording this video, done a reel on Instagram talking about, or not talking, showing off 6 books that I'd like to read for the first time. So I took 2 of those. Archer's Voice, because it made me feel a lot of things, by Mia Sheridan. I just loved this so much. I think it was a 5 stars for me. I think. I love it so much. Archer is a refreshing lead guy because, you know, a lot of the lead guys from romance books are like super confident and like have tons of money and they're just like a little bit arrogant or like threatening in some way. Archer is none of that. Archer is the complete opposite. He is so insecure, and it's lovely seeing him just find his place in the world and finding himself and his confidence throughout this book. So I really enjoyed that it was different in that way. Plus he's also mute. He can't talk with his voice because he doesn't have one. He can talk with his hands, but not like this. I can't do sign language. You know what I mean though. But he can't talk with his voice because he doesn't have one. And I felt like that was an interesting aspect to it as well. Like, it was nice to see that as well, how that worked and stuff. So I really enjoyed this, and I'd like to experience it again for the first time. And then the other one I have is Harold the Ninth, because this was so confusing. Like, I don't know. This was so confusing. And it just, for some reason, it had me the whole way through the book. And at the end, I was just like, oh! Like, I feel like I should have figured it out, but I didn't. Not a mystery, just really messed up sci-fi. Sci-fi fantasy. I don't know what to call this. It's very genre bending. I feel like I could say the same about Gideon the Ninth though. Like, I would love to be able to reread that because there's a lot of stuff that just suddenly slaps you in the face. This, The Locked Tomb is definitely not for everyone, but if you love it, you'll really love it. You just gotta be a little bit patient with it, and it's okay to be confused and kind of lost. Like, that's completely okay. So Harold the Ninth is definitely another one that I would love to be able to read for the first time again, but I can't. So I do have Nona though. I haven't read that one yet, but I have it on Kindle finally, so that may happen at some point. Kind of interested to see where she's gonna go with that one, because the other 2 have been so unique, so I'm very curious to see how that one's gonna go. I don't know, what is she gonna do with that one? We'll see. But anyway, that was all the books that we were talking about today, or that we had to talk about today. It was a lot, wasn't it? I've sat here for a while, haven't I? I just wanted to be thorough, okay? But I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to check out any of the books, I will make sure to leave links to them in the description box down below. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to give it a thumbs up if you did. And if you want to see more videos like this from me, but also TBR videos, bookish unboxings, book hauls, reading vlogs, and all the other booktube stuff, definitely consider sticking around by clicking on the subscribe button. However, that is all I got for you guys today. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye!